What's up, everybody? This is Dalton with GM Baptist Outreach, and I'm here with Chase, Kelly, and Logan Simmons, two people that work on our team. If you don't know who GM Baptist Outreach is, we work with over 230-something churches in helping them set up what's called the Digital Track Ministry to reach more people in their communities, and then just helping them with digital stuff in their churches. But we're going to make this video today. Basically, we want to cover a lot of commonly asked questions that churches give to us on really outreach, discipleship, and all kind of different things surrounding the Digital Track Ministry, and really just ministering to people. And so we got a lot of questions here I think will be very beneficial to you. And so I'm going to have Chase. He's going to kind of take it away and bringing in the questions. But before we do, you want to say anything? No? Just glad to be here.
Glad to be here. I'm the redneck on the team. You can tell I represent.
There you go. Well, let's dive in. We'll dive in with some of these questions. And Chase, I'll let you kind of moderate all that.
Sure. Yeah, let's dive into it. So we probably get this question, I'd say at least 7 to 10 times a day. What is the Digital Track Ministry?
Yeah, that's a very common question. What is the Digital Track Ministry? Basically, it's a paid advertising strategy to help churches reach their communities, hundreds of people a day digitally, and bring visitors in the doors. I'm not going to break it down for y'all on this call because that's really what we promote everywhere across all of our stuff. So if you're interested in learning about the Digital Track Ministry, we'll make sure to drop it in the description of this video where you can sign up for a demo video. Short, like 20-something minute video, walks you through what it looks like set up for a church, how it operates set up for your church. It even walks you through all the different programs we do to help churches set it up. And so if that's one of your questions, you don't know what the Digital Track Ministry is, just sign up for our demo video below and it'll answer all those details.
Perfect. Does the ministry work in both rural areas and populated areas?
You want to answer this one?
Yeah. So absolutely. We have customer we're gonna be able to edit this, right?
No editing.
Are you serious?
No editing. Yeah, go ahead, dive in there. It's raw and real for all of y'all. All right, raw and real.
So yeah, we have churches that we serve, metropolitan areas and also rural areas. I came on. I've known you for a long time. I've known about you, Jim, before it ever even became a thing. So, but we have churches that whenever I first came on, it was very amazing to me that the first time they ever did an ad campaign, they had like 60 first-time visitors, and they're in the middle of a country town. A good friend of mine who has done a case study with us, been with us for a while, Brandon Lynch.
Yeah.
And I talked with him a few months ago. Just gave him a call and. Anyhow, I said, is it still going well? And they're literally in the middle of a hayfield, their church. Yeah. So I had the privilege of preaching there before, and it was pretty great. Every time they do a night campaign, they get 15, 20 first-time visitors. Country town, and a hayfield. So, yeah, I think it's for both. I think it's very...
For sure. And I'll say this, just to add it in, absolutely, like that is a big question we get. Well, we're in a very rural area. Or even like poverty-stricken area, do these work in those areas? And yeah, absolutely. It's just like any other method of outreach. There's people in your area that need the gospel, and there are more than actually people that are willing to come to your church in your area, whether it's rural or populated. And these ads, they're going to reach people. And so one thing we do, I do want to we'll just be transparent and honest, because with that question, there are some nuances. Obviously, if you're in kind of a more populated suburb area than a rural area, there might be times, you'll see more visitors from your ads in some of those areas over a rural area, but it doesn't mean they don't work in rural areas. It just means that you might see more visitors. Mm-hmm. So like a rural area might see 20 or 30 visitors sometimes to a special event ad or something. Populated area sometimes can see 50 or 60. And like Brother Logan said, we've seen some rural areas just like crush it, with visitors all the time from the rural areas. But one thing I will say, just for full transparency, is metropolitan areas like large cities, like in the middle of the heart of a city, like New York or like the heart of Atlanta, like literally the downtown area. Sometimes they can struggle in those areas. And the reason I want to say that is because we used to have a church in the heart of New Jersey, like literally in the downtown area of New Jersey, metropolitan city. And so they did good. They saw visitors, but there is a lot of homeless people sometimes in those areas that will like plan visits to ads, and it'll eat up your ad spend, and they can't even get to your church. But they'll plan visits, and so sometimes you just want to be aware of that. If you're in the heart of a metropolitan city, it's not that they don't work in those areas, but I just want you to know there are some barriers that you'll have to get through running them in those areas. So How about that for being honest?
Yeah, just a couple months ago, we had another church I was thinking about. They had like 270 first-time visitors, rural area.
Rural area, yep, rural. 270 visitors. Ain't that crazy?
That's wild. All right, what are some common things that you notice among churches that are growing? So we talk a lot about getting people into church, but we work with churches all the time. So what are some common things that you see? What are some things, tactics that churches are using that are growing?
Yeah. I'll answer some of this, Logan. I'll let you chime in as well, because I know you see a lot of stuff across churches you talk to. And just so everybody knows, Logan, he's our like church success representative. So like he calls all of our churches, coaching them, helping them in different stuff, best practices of what we do for outreach and different things. And so he sees a lot of the ins and outs of some of these, what churches are doing that are doing good and that aren't doing good. So I'll let him answer some of this as well. But from my perspective, and our opinions might be a little different on this, but from my perspective, something that I see a lot of, well, there's really twofold, but one thing that I see a lot of the churches that are growing are doing is they're just heavy in evangelism. Like there's some churches, like one church that we did an interview just the other day, Zach Kinsman. They started their church like 3 years ago, and they have like 170 members in their church right now. They started with just like 4 or 5 people, but ever since they started, in the interview, he said they have been so focused on saturation evangelism, where just absolutely every avenue, not just digital, but every avenue they could do, they just saturated as hard as they could. They just like literally just put the pedal to the metal, and I mean just did it the best they could, as much as they could, and the Lord's just really blessed, and they've saturated their community with their name, and people know their church's name, and so I do think evangelism is obviously very important. I think one big statement is, you hear this all the time, is most churches are the best well-kept secret in town, and it's the reality. I think a lot of times we think because our church has been there for 50 years that everyone in our town knows who we are, but the reality is they don't. A lot of people don't know who you are. Like we had somebody just visit our church the other day, drove by, seen our sign. We've been here 6 years, right in the middle of our town. Okay, real quick, I just want to hop on here and tell you that GM Baptist Outreach is who sponsors this video, and I want to give you a brief description of who we are. So we help churches reach their communities and bring visitors in the doors of their church every single week with what's called the Digital Track Ministry. And we're working with churches all across the country. We have 170 plus churches we're serving in rural areas, populated areas, also in 5 different countries around the world. And so it's amazing what God's doing with the Digital Track Ministry, and we would love to help your church set this up as well. And so if you're curious about it and you want to know more about it and what it looks like set up for a church, you can find a demo video in the description of this video. You'll find a link to sign up for a demo video that walks you through the exact process of the Digital Track Ministry. It also walks you through the financial side of things of what it looks like set up for a church. And so with that being said, super glad you're here. Sign up for that. Make sure to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's going to allow us to put out a lot more valuable content for churches to help them with outreach and discipleship. So go ahead and enjoy the rest of the video, and we will see you on the other side. They've lived here their whole lives, and they drove by, seen our sign, and they said they've never even knew a church was there. And so you'll just be amazed at the people that don't even know who you are. And so just evangelize. It's just, that's just a heavy, if you want your church to grow, people got to know who you are to come visit you, And then on the flip side of that is, actual church assimilation, which we'll talk about some of that in more detail in a little bit, but just having a plan that when people get there, like how are you going to minister to them and actually keep them there? So that's a big thing too, and we'll get into that in more details. But yeah, like actually having a plan to reach these people, discipleship, and get them engrafted in the life of your church. Most churches don't even have a plan for any of that when they get there, and so having a plan like that in place. And, evangelism is kind of my thoughts that we see across growing churches. They just take it seriously.
Yeah. Well, there's a guy that has had a great impact on me. His name's Bill Burr. And he used to always say that prior proper planning prevents poor performance. Mm-hmm. And so, like you were talking about, having a process. And I think everybody, we were talking about this earlier, I think everyone has a process. Some of it may just be by default. Yeah. It's just what they do. It's what they've always done. I think expecting God to do something, I think expecting visitors to come, preparing your people to expect those things. I think we see that commonly in churches that are reaching people, that are keeping people. Mm-hmm. I agree with everything you just said as far as evangelism and saturation. Online presence or just presence in general in your community is huge. Yep. I had a pastor the other day, brand new church plant, Pastor Fred out of Homer.
Yeah.
And they're seeing great success. And one of the things I was coaching him through was mainly online presence. He didn't have a Google business profile or nothing. And so he called me so excited, I think might have been 2 weeks ago. We set up an initiative. We put a plan. Hey, we want to get your Google business profile going, get 30 reviews within 3 months, different steps. And he called me and said, hey, you'll never guess this happened. He said, but just the other day we had a visitor. All they did was look on Google and said, churches in Homer, Georgia, saw ours and came to the church.
Yeah.
And so I think it's widespread. It's throwing your hooks in the water. It's going fishing. It's going after people. It's being out in front of the community. Yeah. I think that we provide a great service for that, but I don't think it's the all in all.
Yeah, for sure.
I think, door knocking is, soul winning out on the streets when wherever you're going, whether you're in a gas station but I think it's doing everything you can do. Yeah. And I think that we see that in the churches that are successful in having people.
Yeah, the Google profile piece, you mentioned that, and that is a blessing, a great testimony there, with Fred and stuff. But the Google profile, if anyone's listening and you don't have a Google profile, like, y'all are so behind. Like, if somebody was to look up, church near me on Google, like, anytime, and just give you a good illustration, like, if you ever need an AC and air or plumber or something like that, 9 out of 10 times you're going to go straight to Google and type in AC and air in such and such town or whatever. And a lot of people just think their website's going to pop up, but that's not true. The website might be there, but the Google profiles will be above all of the websites. Mm-hmm. The Google profile is what shows up at the top. And so the Google profile, if you don't have one of those, then you're missing a huge piece to just being found on Google. And so,
and not to mention, it's free.
It's free. It don't even cost money. Yeah.
It's you don't need us to set it up for you. You don't need an agency to set it up for you. You can do this on your own. Do yourself a service by setting up a Google business profile.
Yeah, for sure.
And we for sure don't mind helping you do that. But it's absolutely, you can do it on your own. It's free. It's easy. It's the first thing you do when you go out of town. Like, you go out of town, you go on vacation, and if you don't know anybody that knows the area, first thing you're going to do when you're looking at restaurants to go to, 100%, you're going to look at how many reviews they have, how many stars they have. It has a big
for sure
impact on whether or not that I go there. Yeah,
you'll be amazed at how many people visit the community. They look up, churches near me, and they see your church has 2 stars, this church has 50. Psychologically, they're just automatically going to look towards that church first. Yep. It's just consumer mindset. This world is just in that mindset. And so, absolutely, that's good stuff. There's something else you mentioned when you were talking that I was gonna comment on that I thought was really good. But anyways, so that's good stuff. Oh, and also just to add, this is what it was. When we talk about all this stuff like, evangelism, saturating areas, all that stuff. I don't want anyone to ever disregard the power of prayer. I don't want y'all to think like we just believe like it's methods and stuff like that. Like, no, we don't believe that. We just automatically assume you pray. You know what I mean? If you don't pray, then you've done missed the ball. You've done missed it all anyways. But prayer, we know prayer is what blesses what we do, but God blesses what we do. Paul sowed, Apollos watered, God gave the increase. He gave the increase on what Paul sowed, what Apollos watered. If you're sowing just 1 seed a week, you're inviting one person to church a week, that's all you're doing. I guarantee you, guess what? God only has one person to give the increase on, But if you're saturating your area, it gives God more to work with, to work in people's hearts. And so prayer is obviously the key to everything. And I just want to give this illustration because, I remember like about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, really about 2.5 years ago, I guess it's been a little while back. My time frames are always messed up. But I think it was more like around 2.5, maybe even 3 years ago. We were pushing, like, this is right when we started getting into digital outreach, running ads, but we were doing door knocking and different things. And I remember I read a book, and I remember we were doing a lot of stuff, and we weren't seeing a ton of visitors. It was right before we started even doing digital outreach, so. But I remember I was getting like, where I was like, man, it seems like none of this stuff's working. And I read a book by biography on Jonathan Hyde. You know who that is? They called him Pray and Hyde. Some of y'all might, I think it's Jonathan or John Hyde, something like that. But they called him Pray and Hide. And anyways, the book talked about how he prayed every single day that God would let him lead one person to Christ. Wow. And he did that for like, I think 7 or 8 years. God gave him 1 soul every single day, but he prayed earnestly for God to give him 1 soul a day. And so, look, the Lord just convicted my heart about, like, at the season of our church was like visitors. And I started praying every single week. All throughout the week, I was praying for Sunday, but I was praying that God would bring one visiting family in that Sunday. And I'm telling you, I noticed the weeks that I didn't really fervently pray for visitors, we seen nobody. And then the
That's
weeks
good.
that I was praying throughout the week for God to bring a first-time visitor to our church, somebody that would visit our church, sometimes from just nowhere. They just heard about it somewhere and they showed up. It wasn't even all the time from our outreach. But prayer, I believe, I've seen it where when I didn't pray, they didn't come. When I did pray, they did come. And I think God, at the end of the day, I don't think a lot of pastors pray for visitors. I think that you pray for souls to be saved, you pray for all these different things. But how many times do you really pray all throughout the week, Lord, bring a first-time visitor this coming up Sunday, just one visitor this Sunday, and God will do it.
And what an encouragement to your faith when you do pray and God answers that prayer and a visitor comes. How much more apt are you to be so excited that they're there?
Yeah.
Because, you're just expecting God to bring them.
Right.
Yeah.
How much more spiritually and mentally are you prepared for them?
Yeah.
When they come. So
For sure.
That's good.
Yeah.
So this leads us good into the next question. So someone says to you maybe, hey, I ran the campaign, I got someone into church, they visited one time, and then they ask us follow-up, which we hear a lot. How many visitors actually come back after the first visit?
It's a great question. Logan, you want to answer this? This is a common question, a really common question.
I think generally it depends a lot on the church. So, we provide a service that yes, helps with this. We are messaging the people that come. We're trying to get them back whether they came or they didn't come. We have messaging that goes out to them. But at the end of the day, if a person shows up to the church and they don't even know that they was recognized, or they weren't even communicated with, or a lot of that has to do with the church.
Yeah.
It has to do with church culture and everything going on there. And we want to help churches with that. And you said this earlier. It's okay that you have a problem, but identify the problem and then fix the problem.
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with what he said. Like, at the end of the day, it's what they find when they get there. You can never point your finger at something else, like the quality of visitor. People are people, y'all. It don't matter how they got there. Word of mouth, it don't matter how they got there. People are people. They all have a soul. They all need Jesus. They all need salvation. They all need to grow in the faith. And so it's not the different types of people that like, oh, does this outreach method actually bring people and them stay? No, that's not the question. Does the outreach method bring visitors in the doors? That's the question. But when they get there, if they don't stay, that's really on the church, And we see churches that have great retention. We see churches that have terrible retention. It's not so much about how the visitors got there as much as what they find when they get there. And yeah, a lot of times it does fall on churches having a poor assimilation process. We'll talk about that probably in a little bit. A poor retention process of how are we getting these people in the next steps and engrafted into our church. And yeah, at the end of the day, it's a cultural thing. It's a friendly thing. Churches are just terrible at being friendly. I went to a church one time. A pastor invited us to go to one of their banquets to speak on the digital tract ministry to their church members. We did. There was probably 50 people in that church. And I think the only people that talked to us was the pastor and the people that sat across from us because they had to, because we were eating with them. They had to talk to us. It was crazy. Me and my wife left that place, and I'm a pastor. Me and my wife left that place, and we felt like it was just very awkward. We felt very uncomfortable. Yeah. And I'm a pastor. And you know what I mean? I understand how people are, but just us going to that church and having nobody talk to us, people just kind of stare at us as they walk by and stuff, was very awkward. And yeah, in my mind, I was like, if that church ever invites us to come speak or do anything again, I probably won't even go. Because it was just, it's one of those things to where the atmosphere, the culture of your church is a big thing. And that does fall on the pastor and the leadership. The pastor and the leadership will create that atmosphere based on how you preach and how you exhort and train your people and some of that. So, but yeah, and also just let me throw this in there. A dead, dry church too, y'all. I can't stand going to a dead, dry church. I ain't gonna lie. like if your church, man, if it's just dead and dry and don't seem like the people there even want to be there, the worship, don't even look like the pastor wants to be there, At the end of the day, like, you need to have an environment where people get there that I believe, I love the statement where God shows up, praying for the presence of God. I pray for our church all the time, and our people do. I encourage our people to pray that when people come in our church, they find something that they don't find out in the world, that they experience something real. They experience the presence of God. Like, I want them to leave saying, like Jacob, surely God was in that place. You know what I mean? Like, something different when they got there, and that comes through prayer and prayer alone. But church assimilation, all that stuff kind of comes with it. But yeah, all that on top of it. A lot of times it's your church's, it's a problem y'all have if no visitor ever comes back. But like Logan said, if you realize that's a problem, you can fix it. You know what I mean? You can go and find how to fix that. So, anyways, anything else either one of y'all want to add on that?
I'm good there.
Okay.
Next one is, so he wants to get maybe a little bit more specific about what are some common tips to ensure an ad campaign performs better?
So what are some common tips to ensure an ad campaign performs better? I mean, I know several off the top of my head, and for those who are watching that maybe don't do the digital track ministry, we're talking about Facebook and Instagram advertising. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like a part of what the digital track ministry is. It's ingrained into it. So this is mainly for those who are already using, the digital track ministry and stuff. So some tips on what will make an ad campaign better. I mean, I think a lot of times it falls on the video. Like if your video is terrible that we show you how to do. I tell churches in the coaching program all the time, just do it the way we show you how to do it. Don't be cute. Don't think you're smarter than us. We do this for hundreds of churches all across the country. We've tested it. We know what works, what doesn't work. I think when people try and go out the box and think they're smarter than us, like they're going to add music behind the video and all this different stuff, and we tell them not to do that, they just, Anyways, at the end of the day, I think it's the video quality, doing it the way we show you, and at the end of the video is so very important to add a call to action. Make sure to tell them to plan the visit below. If you don't tell them that, you'll be amazed at how many people will not do that because they don't know to do it. So in the video, little nuances like that, telling them to plan their visits below. Something that we find where churches that come to us that have ran ads before, a lot of times, which we might, that's another question, right? Yeah. But some churches, like a lot of times, they might even ask us, hey, can you come look over our ads if they're using the digital track ministry? And they just don't do it the way we show them how to do it, obviously, but we'll go look over their ads, and they're just not spending enough money. We give them a recommended amount of money to spend for ad spend, and a lot of times they're just not spending enough to reach enough people to actually bring visitors in. But those are just a couple things on tips on ads. You got anything else on that?
Well, I mean, just kind of piggyback off what you just said is, like, we have templates laid out, we have proven metrics, and so if you want to go off the beaten path, like, that's up to you.
Yeah.
But I would strongly recommend the first couple times you do an ad campaign, at least follow the layout.
Sure.
And if because it's I see it all the time. It don't work, or from some churches, and it's just like you go and overview everything they've done. It's like, well, man, you didn't follow the plan. You never followed the plan. Yeah. And so we've had to retrain pastors and say, hey, look, we gave this to you. Let's go back. Let's do a refresh course, and then they'll go and do it, and they'll see success. So, it's up to you if you want to try something different. That's fine. I mean, you're at liberty to do so.
Yeah, and I try to coach individuals. I had this conversation yesterday with someone, and he had some questions about some things he wanted to change. I said, let's do it like this. For the first campaign, let's do it how we say to do it. And if you want to make some changes next time, we'll make some changes, but at least we have a baseline of what is going to work in your area, because this is a proven system. We have the templates, we have the video scripts, we have the call to actions. We have something that works. Let's do it in a proven way, and then if we want to go and have some nuance, we can. It's a testing thing. Running ads is testing what works. But we've tested a lot of these. I mean, probably close to 1,000 times now with all the different ads we've ran so far. So, just do it like we say, and then go from there. Test from there.
Another thing, diversity.
Yeah, that's a big one too.
Like, I understand. Like, you may be at a church that, like, you don't have access to other people that might not be willing to do this. But I mean, more than likely, most churches, you have somebody that you can put in front of a camera. They don't have to be an actor. They don't have to be a great memorizer, had great memorization for lines. It's literally a 30-second video. It's hey to your area. It's simple. It's very easy. And I think the more that you can have, if your church demographic is old and young and then in between and different races, utilize what God's given you, because those people naturally impact and what's the word? I can't come up with a word. It's like where
they naturally reach people that are like themselves.
Like them, relatable. They're naturally more relatable to people that are like them in that area. So diversity is huge.
For sure, yeah. And so, for example, like when we do these campaigns, we recommend you having different videos with different people in each one. Mm-hmm. And so what he means by diversity is like having people that are different than the other person in the video. So don't have like 3 women that all have blonde hair. I mean, like have a lady's video, a man's video. If you have different ethnicities, black, Spanish, white, Filipino, have different people record videos because people are naturally drawn to people like them. So, a lady might plan a visit to a woman's video over a man's video. And and vice versa. And so you want to reach as many demographics as you can. And it's kind of like old and young. Like have an older person record a video, have a younger person record a video. And I think statistically, it's like people will reach people within 10 years above their age or under their age. So like that's kind of the threshold there. Like if you have someone in their 50s record a video, they're going to reach people 10 years younger than them, 10 years older than them. And so you want to have different age groups and diversify. And typically I see, from what I see, a lot of times a lady's video and the pastor's video oftentimes always do the best. Now, obviously you want to still diversify. Don't just do the pastors and the ladies. But that's something I find. Like women's video will always do really good. And then oftentimes the pastor's video will always do really good. And then some other tips and nuances, y'all. And this hopefully this don't offend anybody, but sometimes a better looking person can do better. Can I just say that? Can I just say it? If you
thought about saying it, but I ain't saying it. I'm listening.
So it's just genetics. It's one of those things people are. That's why they put guys like on movie stars. You know what I mean? You don't ever see movie stars that aren't ripped in shape.
They wanted Saul to be king because he looked like
he looked
like a king.
He was a
shoulders, baby.
a fair looking individual, and so that's just a tidbit. That's just a tip, y'all. And even like talkers, like if you got somebody who you come you don't want them to do your video. Have someone that speaks a little bit clearly, confidently, and it's one of those things to where just a tips to try, different stuff. So anyways.
So this next question is on the exact opposite side of that spectrum. What are some common mistakes churches make when trying digital outreach for the first time?
They don't.
They don't follow
They don't follow the rules.
Can I take this one first? So I know this one thing is whenever they try to make it look like an ad. So, and like what I mean by that is if you mentioned the music, you put the music behind it, they're super scripted. You look at it and it looks like an advertisement. It really should look like, this is all digital marketing, but we've also seen it in the church space. It should look like content. It should look like someone's inviting you to church and it just happens to have the word sponsored at the top of it. It should not look like an advertisement. Mm-hmm. When you put music behind it, when you have all these extra things that make you, where you can tell it's actually an ad, people usually are turned off by it because they feel like they're being sold to.
Yeah, well, we've been conditioned, this entire generation has been conditioned to automatically tune out advertising.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so the moment it becomes that,
mm-hmm.
I'm just waiting for the show to kick on. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Yeah, for sure. And I agree. Do it the way we show you how to do it. A lot of times you'll try and people will add music in the background and different layover images. Some of that stuff ain't terrible. I've seen some videos with overlay images that aren't super bad, but sometimes they work well. But just the more personal it is, where someone just hops on a camera like this is Pastor so and so wanting to invite my community church. It's just more personal and it just reaches people better, and that's the way we show y'all how to do it. So back to what we said originally, just do it the way we show you. You're gonna get good results if you just do it the way we show you. This is also kind of laid out with that other thing we discussed. What was the question again? Read it.
Some common mistakes churches make when trying digital outreach for the first time.
So common mistakes churches make when they try digital outreach. A lot of times, let's just set the digital track ministry to the side. A lot of times we say digital outreach and churches just start thinking of everything they've done in the past. That isn't the digital track ministry. So they think about boosting a Facebook post like they've done, or creating an event and boosting an event. A lot of times you say digital outreach and people think of stuff like that, or they made a website page, or you know what I mean? We don't at the end of the day, there's a lot of things for digital outreach. Digital track ministry is definitely what we want you to do, where you can learn how to do that successfully. But when we talk about advertising, don't associate boosting a Facebook post with advertising, because it's a type of advertising, but it's not what we do at the Digital Track Ministry, okay? So common mistakes people make when they do ads and digital outreach, yes, they boost posts, which are terrible. If you're doing that, stop doing that. If you're creating an event and boosting an event, even that, every now and then I've heard churches say they've seen visitors from those, but even those, it's no different than a boosted post. None of these people are getting reminders. It's not. So I think if you want to associate the digital outreach where the common mistake is, it's number one, them not knowing how to run ads successfully, and they're boosting posts, different things, and they're not spending enough money when they do them as well. But also number two, there is no follow-up process with their ads, and that's where the digital outreach, the digital tracks, when it comes to the automated text reminders and stuff leading up to the service, really makes people's digital outreach better than what they're already currently doing? That can be a very broad question, I
Sure.
think about like digital outreach in general. There's a lot of different terminologies people would use. And I even say this. Some people think digital outreach, we're doing some digital outreach. We're using the Google Ads grant. And like, use the Google Ads grant. That's fine. If you're looking into the Google Ads grant, that's fine. I just want you to know that I've talked to hundreds of churches, tons of them that have used the Google Ads grant, and I've never heard one church say that, man, we see visitors all the time from our Google grant. Matter of fact, there's one church that signed up for the Digital Tract Ministry probably like 6 months ago, and they said they've been paying somebody $350 or $500 a month to manage their Google Ads grant, and they've been paying them for like 3 years, and they said they've never tracked one visitor from it.
Wow.
I was blown away. Yeah, I was like, why have you been paying for 3 years? But everybody thinks the Google Ads grant, they're like, oh, that's $10,000 of free money. But they don't know how it works. Google puts stipulations on those free grants to where there's certain criteria that if you're not running it to like the whole state, you're not going to reach anybody. Like, you're not going to get visitors in. When you're running those to just a local audience, there's not enough people to hit the click-through rate that they're wanting you to hit. So I say that to say this. A lot of people just don't know what they're doing. So when they do digital outreach, they'll do Google grants, stuff like that. They just don't know that they don't work, and they don't know the stipulations. And so it's like, still, you can do the Google grant, you can do all that stuff, just don't associate it with, digital outreach not working because, some of that junk didn't work. So go ahead.
Yep, that's good. The next one is, how do I reach young people when everyone in my church is over 60?
So, so that's a good question. All right. So
you don't want me to say what I said earlier.
I'll let you comment on it here in a second. So the question is, how do we reach young people when all of our church is over 60? I can't tell you how many times I get that question. And I say the reason people ask us these questions, it's not because we've been in the ministry for like 40 years or anything. The reason we're doing this video is because we want to show you all the most common questions we get asked from churches about what we see other churches are doing, because we work with over 200 something churches, so we see a lot, big churches, small, like we see a lot of what's going on. And so people will ask us that question, how do our churches get young people in the doors? And if all of our churches over 60, what do we do to get young people in the doors? Here's my advice to them, and I'll let Logan give chime in on this, but and then Chase can chime in on it. But what I recommend to churches is stop focusing on, if you have no young people in your church, at the end of the day, you don't need to go have a children's event if you have no young people in your church to support it. Yeah. If you bring children in from the community and they're visitors, but there is no other young kids in the church, don't focus outreach efforts just for young people when you don't have any young people in your church to start a group. Yeah. My thing is if you have a church that's all over 60 years old, you just got to focus so heavily on evangelism. You're going to reach mainly what's in your congregation. You're going to reach more older people. That's fine. Yeah. But the more people you reach is you're going to bring more older people in that have grandkids and have kids. And you'll have kids and grandkids start coming to your church because their grandma's going to your church. And now you start getting a couple young people there, and you can start doing younger children's events then. But don't try to do kids events when you have no kids in your church. Try and reach as many people as you can. The more older people you get in, they'll naturally start bringing some younger people that's associated into their families. And that's how you'll grow that younger group. You don't want to reach, that's just my opinion though. You don't want to reach out to them when you have none there. I say just reach as many people as you can. If more older people stick because you have an older congregation, that's fine. It will naturally start bringing in kids and grandkids the more older people you get in there. The problem is you're not reaching enough people.
Yep.
That's at the end of the day, that's the problem. What you say?
Yeah, just go after everybody. And reiterate what he said. I've said that a couple times. But I'm going to reiterate it, is just go after what you have in your area. And then the likelihood of you, when you do get young people, then offer things for them. I did say earlier this is a joke, but hire a young preacher. No,
I'd say just steward what the Lord has given you to be able to steward. Yeah. Right? I mean, it reminds me of the parable of the talents. To one he gave 10, to one he gave 5, to one he gave 2, for each. Yeah. Just whatever the Lord has put in your possession to steward it well. Yeah. And, to reiterate again what Dalton said, naturally, people only get so old, and at some point they stop living. And then naturally people only get older. So you're going to have people flowing in and out of the church, but you only have those people whenever you're out reaching out to get them into the door.
Yeah. So you've got to get new life coming in your church. Your church will die if you're not reaching people. Okay? You'll be amazed at how many churches we talk to that literally have no budget for outreach. They don't even knock on doors. I'll ask them, what are y'all doing for outreach right now? They'll be like, well, really, we're not doing anything. Mm-hmm. I'm like, well, no wonder your church is dwindling down and dying, and y'all are scared the doors are going to close. You know what I mean? So anyways, but with that, being said, about the younger folks, like I think that those are pretty good answers. And what Logan was saying, I do think it's not a bad idea. Like maybe you need to hire a young associate pastor or a young youth pastor. You know what I mean? Or some of those things can be good to help them. Kind of have a younger family there that can help reach a younger audience. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, some of them can be good ideas.
Yeah.
And then if you do, like, there's a lot of churches that have one or two, right? They might not be completely at zero.
Yeah.
But they may have one or two. If you can, employ those people to reach others.
Mm-hmm.
I understand some people are extroverted, some people are introverted,
Sure.
but there's, when you've already got something, steward what you already have.
Yeah.
That's right.
And expect and pray. I mean, a lot of this is going to go back to prayer.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Dalton, you touched on it for a second there, and this transitions into the next question about budgets. How can small churches with limited budgets still reach their community effectively online?
How can a small church with a limited budget still reach their community effectively online?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff you can do. Like the Google profile is a big one. Like a lot of free tools are out there to reach your community online that don't require money, okay? So, Google profile, having a nice quality website, a lot of different things like that are good places to start, okay? And I would try and move over time if we're just focusing on digital stuff. I mean, if you don't have any money, you should definitely be doing door knocking.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not against door knocking, but you should definitely be giving out tracts, inviting folks to church, and things of that nature. Saturate all those free areas, those free avenues you got. And I think the question was more geared towards online presence, reaching them online. So Google profile, all those different things. But I would also say try and start saving up some money to do some paid advertising and stuff. I mean, and I'll say this, this is actually a pet peeve of mine. I actually rant on this in the university all the time. I think people get upset sometimes. But this is my opinion. No one has to agree with this. But I do think we've emphasized so much on worldwide missions that we've let our own churches die. Mm-hmm. Like, I really believe that. Like, I think churches, like, this whole philosophy has been preached for so long. Raise your missions budget every year, and God will provide. I'm not against that stuff. There's nothing wrong with that stuff. But I don't think there's also nothing wrong with you raising your budget to reach your community. Yeah, where God puts you. You know what I mean? Like missionaries, I can't stand when I see a church gives $20,000 a year to worldwide missions, but they can't spend $2,000 a year for digital outreach. You know what I mean? Like, that blows my mind. What are you talking about? And they're like scared their doors are going to shut. It don't matter if you're spending $30,000 a year in worldwide missions. If your local community, if your church is dwindling down and dying, you can keep raising money for worldwide missions, but once your doors close, you have to drop all the missionaries anyhow.
Yeah.
You know?
So, I don't know. There's a pastor I'm going to this weekend, going to a meeting, presenting at a men's conference. And when he and I first started talking about, how, everything's going with him, with GM Baptist. And so when you first started talking to him about the possibility of coming home, their church is a missions church, heavily, they're supporting missionaries. I think it was like, it was a crazy amount of missionaries that they're supporting and sending out every month. And you had that pet peeve that you had said something because they're not spending anything for local.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, it's just kind of out of our budget, it's kind of, and then you had mentioned that to him, and it was like, it so convicted him.
Yeah.
Because, they're like sending all this to go overseas, and those things are great. I think that's part of the Great Commission. That's part of the plan. It's to go to the uttermost. But if you're not effectively going after Jerusalem, it's you build Jerusalem up first for a foundation to then send out to the uttermost.
You steward what you have right here, here in your hands to be able to.
And let me also say this: I've always been under that conviction that our church, we spend a lot on outreach in our community, but we also give to worldwide missions. For anybody watching, don't think we don't believe in it. We give a lot of money to worldwide missions too. But I've never felt like I've always felt like if we're willing to give it to the world, we should give it to our community where God put us. And so we spend just as much or even more money every year on our local outreach, reaching people, where we are. And that just grows our church stronger financially where we can do more for missions, And so, I think your local community ought to be your priority. And I think you should probably spend more money on that than reaching the world. You're letting people in your community down and go to hell.
If you reach your community, guess what? You won't have to go find a missionary to adopt. Eventually, you'll raise them up from within and send them out.
Send them out. Yeah.
Yep.
For sure.
That's good.
Yeah. That's a big one. I really enjoy that question. I think a lot of churches have had this thing. Just like, I just think that.
You tell you're not that passionate about that.
Yeah. That thing drives me crazy sometimes, man. Because they're like scared to death their churches are going to die, but they spend no money on local outreach, but they'll spend all kind of money on worldwide missions. It rattles my mind.
I'll say a young pastor asks you, what should I focus on first? More visitors, better follow-up, or a stronger online presence? What say you?
What should I focus on first? More visitors? And it was geared towards like a young pastor. What should a church focus on first? Visitors, better follow-up, stronger online presence. And yeah, that's a good question. I mean, and for those who don't know, if y'all don't know any like who we are, like or who I am or anything, like we've been in the ministry pastoring. I still pastor a church here. We started our church from scratch 6 years ago, just me and my wife in a storefront. And so now we've been in it for 6 years. We're building a new building and everything. So I'll say this from a point of I know what ministry is. So don't think like we're like some just we've never pastored or been a part of the ministry. Like we know it. It's involved in pastoring and doing the work of the ministry. And so I'll answer this question. And Logan, you've done some pastoring and stuff, and you definitely have done it in a very successful church that the Lord blessed. And you've done a little church planting, and I'll let you comment on this because I think we talked a little bit about this, and you kind of have a different, we have a little bit of a different opinion. I think we're pretty aligned with everything though. To me, I think you need to focus just on outreach. When you first start a church or take a church, if your church is going on down, if it's a revitalization, I lean towards outreach. Don't worry about, I've seen some people that are like, well, we're not going to do a lot of outreach until we fix our building. We're still raising money to fix our building. It might be a year and a half before you get your building fixed where it needs to be. No, you just do outreach and it's going to bring people in and you'll be able to raise money to fix your building a lot quicker, okay? But at the end of the day, if you have a church assimilation process, a discipleship process that are terrible, I think you should fix those things, and we'll get into that. But I think you can't fix them until you get visitors coming in the door because you don't know how to fix them if there is no fresh blood coming through them. You see what I mean? So I really think outreach cures all at the end of the day when it comes to you bettering your discipleship process, bettering your assimilation process, raising more money. I mean, all of it at the end of the day is reaching souls with the gospel. And that's the Great Commission. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, reaching souls with the gospel of Christ, getting them saved out of hell. I do believe in discipleship, heavy on it. We believe in it. We're going to talk more about that, I'm sure, in a minute with the next question. But that I think you should focus definitely on getting people in the doors. But I do think there's a double-edged sword that if you don't have a process when they get there, it might be a waste of time when they come in and go right out and never come back. So, but Logan, what's your thoughts on it?
So I'm the eternal visionary on the game, thinking way too many steps out ahead. I agree with everything you're saying. I would say though, and you kind of touch on this, there needs to be some form of a process.
Yeah.
Even if it's just you and your wife, you had some form of hey, if somebody comes this Sunday, this is what we're going to do if they come. So you have to have something. And I don't know, young pastor, right? More than likely, it's probably not a huge church that's already got staff and volunteers leading. It's probably something very similar to what I started with. Church of 9, but everybody was tired. There wasn't nobody younger than 65 when I first went there. Small town of 200. So we did. Of course, I was very young, very inexperienced. I preached heaven's sweet, and hell's hot, heaven's not. That's what I preached every Sunday. Hell's hot, heaven's not. But when people came, we started. I could see where you're talking about. People started coming. We started noticing, hey, these are things that we're doing, and they're not right.
Yeah.
So let's get these things right. I think evangelism. If you're in a community that God has placed you in, He didn't place you, more than likely, He did not place you in that church to revitalize bylaws or church constitution. He put you in that church to transform the community with the preaching of the gospel.
Amen.
And so there are people in that area that God has planted you there to go after. And I don't think we can be consumed with the four walls of the church. Mm-hmm. For too long, churches have said, well, they'll just come to us.
Yeah.
For too long, it's been arrows pointing into the church building.
Yeah.
Well, we don't live in those days anymore where just the lost people understand the concept. Like you need to at least do right and go to church.
Yeah.
We live in a day where people they've never even heard the gospel and the Bible Belt. Like they've never heard a simple plan of salvation. This is the gospel. And so I do think that there's part of equipping the people that you already have. So I think it's, like I said, it's a double-edged sword. Go after what you got in your area, but if God has already blessed you with people that are a little bit further down in their journey, grab those people. I had a guy. I'm not going to go on a long story. All right.
He rambles, y'all. He rambles.
I'm a preacher. But anyhow, Brother Tom, like I said, we had 9 people. Older man, retired, and Lord bless his soul. I mean, he just was awesome. He'd fill any role. I mean, he was the worship leader, and he definitely did not want to be the worship leader. He'd tell me every Sunday, when you find somebody to take the spot, please take it from me. But he would do it. And he and I we'd just go out. I don't know that he had ever been soul winning before his entire life.
Yeah.
But we would just go knock on doors. And I watched God use just he and I mean, in so many different ways. There's a girl in that church that's still there to this very day. God's using her family in amazing ways. And it was because me and him went on a Wednesday right before church and we just went and started knocking on doors in the community.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so.
Amen. Yeah. Absolutely.
All right, let's tidy this up. This is the one that I know you both could riff on for a while. This is about church assimilation. And so how do churches typically keep members and visitors engaged and encouraged to come back?
How do churches keep visitors and members engaged and encouraged to come back? Yeah, that's pretty much church assimilation. Yeah, I mean, discipleship. I mean, I do think, I know we've had so many people ask for us to do a video on just pure church assimilation, like next steps from a visitor entering in, like what are churches doing, that just next steps, actually detailed process of, having a hospitality team, what the team's doing, how they're getting them engaged and all that stuff. So we do need to make a video on that one day. We'll make it. We might not go into details on all the different pieces today unless we just end up doing it. But I would say to keep them let's just deal with the visitors and not so much the members keeping them coming back, but let's just say visitors. What is a good retention process for visitors? And that's definitely having a plan. I've made a video on this on our YouTube channel, but I definitely think, and we've thrown this statement around often, and I think it's one of my favorite statements is, people need Jesus, but they want friends. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, people don't know what they need sometimes, but they know what they want. And they want community, they want friends, they want relationships. And a lot of times, whether it's long-term members or first-time visitors, what keeps people in church is relationships. If I've seen it in our own church, when members start getting disconnected from the relationships in the church, it's very quickly they stop going to church. Mm. And so even if they're saved, good Christians, at the end of the day, it's relationships that really keep people engaged and coming back. And so when you've got a visitor that comes in, yes, we preach the gospel of Christ to them. Yes, we want to get them saved if they're lost and get them right with God if they're not right with God, or get them get connected with Jesus. We have a discipleship process at our church, like assimilation process from start to finish. We call it Connect, Grow, Fulfill. Okay, and we got that. If no one knows, we've read this book. It's called Simple Church. Really good book. Encourage you to read it. Revolutionize our whole process there. But our process, step one, when they get into the church on Sunday mornings, is connect. We want to get them, number one, connected to God. We do that through the singing and preaching of God's word, praying for God to show up, to work in their hearts. But our second point to that is connecting people to people. And so literally, all of our church, I've been preaching on it even on Sunday nights here lately. So we started Vision Sunday nights several weeks ago, maybe a month and a half ago, and I've been preaching on every Sunday night, different parts of our process. But one of the big ones was everybody in the church having a mindset that this visitor, I might be the only one that can connect with them. Because they might be of your age, they might have some relating to yours, you can relate to them in a way someone else can't. So we want everybody to be responsible that this visitor might be the visitor that I can connect to. And so we want to encourage people to have that mindset of trying to get in a relationship with those people, because if they leave, if they're a visitor that knows nobody in your church, you've got cold, hot, and warm visitors that come. Mm-hmm. And I did a video on that. Y'all can go watch on our YouTube channel. But a cold visitor is a lot of times the people who come from your ads and come from different areas that know nobody in your church. And your main goal ought to be getting in a relationship with them, because you say, well, we just want to get them to Jesus. Well, a lot of times people don't get saved until they've been coming to the church for several weeks. And so if you can't get them there for several weeks, then you're not going to get them to Jesus. You know what I mean? And so the only way we can get them there for several weeks is a lot of times getting them in relationships. And so our whole mindset is, how can we get these people in a relationship as quick as possible? And that's where church assimilation comes into, hospitality team, what they're doing to try and get relationships started. Like we have a part of our assimilation process to where, hey, listen, we encourage you to take them out to eat, buy their meal, and the church will reimburse you for it all. Because it's just part of the ministry. We want to get relationships established. So, like, there's a lot more nuances into that step-by-step church assimilation. If y'all want more details on that, like us to do a video on just church assimilation with details, drop it in the comments, let us know you want it, and we'll definitely do it. We've had people ask about that, so we'll do that soon. But, like, that's what I say, relationships. Get them connected in a relationship as quick as possible, whether it's a visitor or a long-term member. Have a structure in your church where relationships are being fostered, and you'll be amazed at the people that will come back and people that will stay. You got anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I talk to pastors all the time, client success, and so one of a very common question that we have is about retention. And one of the first things that I ask them, I say, hey, let's play it out as a scenario. I'm a first-time visitor. I came through an ad campaign. I saw it on Facebook, clicked the link, filled it out. I'm in the parking lot. Walk me through the next steps. And I'll just have them walk me through it. And I mean, some churches have really good, processes. But I would say more than not, they'll say, oh, well, either A, I'll go through the door all by myself, or B, there will be somebody at the door, but there's no plan. It's just a person posted guard.
Yeah.
Like they're just there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey man, like, did you like go find people that will wear a smile on their face and say good morning and say good to see you?
Yeah.
What's next? What's after that? Do they just go find a seat, or do you have first time visitor gifts? At the end of the day, I understand, like, I'm not just trying to jump on a fad. It's not about a fad. It goes back to what Dalton said a second ago. We're so willing to adopt a missionary that we didn't even raise up from within our church, and I'm not against that. I think there are great missionaries all across this world, and they need our help, they need our support. But we're so quick to write a check to somebody that's doing work overseas, and we'll mail that check right over the house that somebody lives that's lost across the street from us.
Yeah.
And I think going back to, you said a second ago, like spending like money, whether it be having gifts for first-time visitors, first-time visitor bag, or spending the money on whatever it is in your community, it's still missions related. And so, anyhow, I had them walk me through that, and some of them do, some of them don't. But I would have a clear path that you and those people in your church that are laborers, that is very clear, very simple, very understood. People want to feel welcomed.
Yeah.
People want to, they want to find something that's relatable, but also relational.
Yeah.
So.
And they want to be seen. People want to be seen. Like they want to know that they came to church. Maybe they've had an experience with church before where it wasn't so positive. They want to know that they walk in the church and, like you said, someone greets them with a smile. I mean, having that first time, and people don't care about the gift. It's about being seen. Like, hey, we thought enough about you as a first time giver to have this thing prepared for you. But it's not so much about the gift. It's being seen as a human. Right.
Yeah.
It's a big thing.
I had a preacher inform me of this. I was just before I started to call the ministry as a preacher. I was just a heavily part of the ministries of our church, and I was wanting to be, get involved in soul winning. Had a burden for souls, and he instructed me of so many different things. Like even to this day, I will not, if I'm talking or having a deep conversation with someone, I will not wear my glasses. I'll take my sunglasses off. He's like, people need to see your eyes.
Yeah.
But he told me, he said, their favorite word in any language
Is their name?
is their name.
Yep.
They love their name. They know their name.
Yep.
So just the intention, and I'll tell you, I am one of the world's worst at remember people's names. So I make intentional habits. I go to a restaurant. First thing I'm doing is looking for a name tag, And sometimes I will even type it in my phone or text it to my wife. So that as through the night we're there and I'm having conversations with our waiter, because I know where I'm going. I know that, hey, I'm going to witness this person before we're done.
Yeah.
I'm going to hold them hostage with their tip. But like, if you can't even remember their name, man.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's things like, I think intentionality is one of the biggest things that we need in the church. Intentionality, authenticity,
Yeah.
being genuine. Having a genuine desire to reach people. And like, okay, let's go back to process assimilation. It's not just a fancy word for us to make us feel like we're doing something.
Mm-hmm.
What it is you have a plan. The person shows up and you get them from showing up to different steps to an end goal. What's the end goal?
Yeah.
You just want a tither?
Yeah.
You just want a person that sits and warms a pew?
Yeah. Just a metric. Is it a metric? Yeah.
Right. What's your end goal? I believe scripturally, based upon what the Great Commission is, you look it up, Matthew 28, Mark 16, John 20, Luke 24, Acts 1:8, it's there. What is it? It's reaching lost, raising up the saved. What did Christ give us to do? He called us to make disciples that will go and make disciples.
Amen.
You first got to reach them. They first got to get saved.
Yeah.
Become a part of the discipleship process. And I think the end goal should always be making disciples.
Yeah.
You
And
can call it different things, but that's what
Yep.
it needs to be.
For sure, yeah. Yeah, and those disciples reach more people and disciple them. And yeah, it's just a big process. I mean, if the pastor's the only one reaching people and discipling people and no one else is equipped to, you've missed the whole thing.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
church is bound to fail.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ministry should be a multiplication problem, not an addition problem.
Yeah.
If it's every time, it's just the pastor only reaching every few people here and there, then that's an addition problem. You're only going to add a few here and there. If you had 10 members going and finding 10 more visitors, finding 10 more visitors, then it starts to grow exponentially.
Absolutely, it's each one reach one process.
Yeah.
If every person, Andrew's not one of the 3 disciples that got to see Jairus' daughter raised. He didn't get to go on the Mount of Transfiguration. He wasn't in the innermost
Right.
part of the garden when Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. But I'll tell you what he did do. Every time you see him in Scripture, he's bringing somebody to Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
He first brought his brother. He then brought a lad. He then brought the Greek people when Jesus was there in Jerusalem for the last time before his passion. And so he was constantly bringing people to Christ. He was not the eloquent preacher of Pentecost.
Mm-hmm.
He did not walk on water with Christ. He was not the Apostle Paul who saw chains fall and jail cells swing wide open. But anyhow, so I think it's my mentor, Pauline figure in my life. Don't say that lightly. Pastor of a great church, many years. He's been in missions for a long time. He said this was revolutionary for his church. I think he took church, there was 14 people. When he left, it was like close to 1,000 in a small town, small community. He said when he started consistently beating the drum to evangelism for his people to be soul conscious. A good friend of mine, we were talking the other day, I think people fall in the habit of filling roles for the servitude of that specific church or pastor.
Yeah.
And we're called to serve. We're called to serve one another. But primarily if our service is out of devotion and love for Christ.
Yeah.
If God called you to hold a door open and smile, and you're doing it for the glory of God, you have a part of every single person that walks through that building.
Yeah.
Here's the gospel, gets saved. Their soul is added to your account in heaven.
Yeah.
Because you did it for the glory of God.
That's right.
I think we need to understand, who are we doing it for?
That's right.
Yeah, I think I have to remind our nursery workers all the time. Like, not just our nursery workers, anybody that serves in the church, but I think the nursery workers is a big one I remind of that same statement, is that, if you don't watch it, you'll get burnt out in the nursery. If you're doing it thinking you're doing someone a favor or doing something. But if you don't realize dealing with a bunch of kids that are not disciplined at home and are buck wild crazy, if you don't realize you're doing this for the glory of God, and I'm just using nursery workers as an example, because I think that's one of the hardest ministries in the church.
Yeah.
Dealing with in the nursery, I think that to me that's one of the hardest ministries to get people that actually faithfully do it with joy in their hearts than anything else, because just the nature of it. And I think I tell them that all the time. At the end of the day, you need to serve like you're serving Jesus. You're doing it for the glory of God. That's all good stuff. I think honestly, what it all boils down to, kind of like at the end, like to sum up some of the questions. Like, I think for far too long, there's been this philosophy among churches that you just preach the truth, and if they want it or don't want it, you know what I mean? You just leave it there. But the reality is discipleship's intentional. You've got to do it on purpose. You've got to win. I've always loved the statement, you got to win people's hearts before you can win their ears. And sometimes that's the case. You know, you got to actually be intentional to reach people, build relationships, disciple them in the faith, make them a disciple maker. But it's not just you getting up preaching on Sunday morning, preaching the truth, and bless God if they receive it and obey it. That's up to them. That's your discipleship process. Absolutely terrible. It's doomed to fail. So, anything else?
That's it. That's all the questions.
What about you? You just, do you have any, like, I know you just, what is it, about 2 years ago, you started going to that church. What got you kept coming? Why'd you keep going there? What touched your heart and life that made you keep going there? Because we're talking about retention and visitor assimilation. What was it?
So I think it's a good destination, and one of the really, really good things that they have a specific pastor called the Connections Pastor. So his sole goal is to reach out to, they're really intentional about greeting people with a smile at the door, new visitors, but making sure they have follow-up. I mean, this is a guy now that, and a lot of people say that as, well, the Connections Pastor will, he might be someone that you talk to for the first few weeks, but once you're going to the church regularly, you don't talk to him. I meet with this guy once a month now. We have conversation. We're really good friends. And they were very intentional about, they have a really good assimilation process. And I honestly did not know that word at the time, as far as in the church realm. But it was just having someone that was intentional, for them specifically, having that connection pastor that takes his time out of his day to reach out to people that are coming into the church, having those conversations, inviting them to lunch, inviting them to coffee, and just making sure that, one of the things we talk about is discovering purpose. If every person in your church knew what their purpose was,
oh man,
you know what I mean?
Oh man,
knew what their purpose was, and because it's going to be to love God and serve people, but that we all have unique gifts, unique talents. I didn't realize that. So having a church family that kind of poured that into me and helped me to discover my purpose, to me, that was one of the best things that I've learned, and I've found a new love for Christ that has always been there. But I mean, it's one of those things where just having a great church body, and then building community. Church is wonderful. The worship together is wonderful, but we also do small group Bible study. Just have it where you can actually you can have intimate, vulnerable conversations with each other, get into the Bible a little bit deeper, ask hard questions to one another, and to me, it's just a few of those things. We have a dream team philosophy where we love God, we love people, we pursue excellence, and we choose joy, and we live by that. So
yeah, it's good stuff. And I like that. Honestly, I've talked to you about it because I like to talk to y'all's connection pastor sometimes, just to talk about his job role, because I think you don't hear of that in a lot of churches. Like, as far as you have an associate pastor, which might do the same job as the connection pastor, and if you have an associate pastor, they can be that connections pastor. But I think having somebody that you don't even have to call them connection pastor, call them whatever you want, but having somebody that their whole job is to oversee how people are getting connected in your church, and his whole job is to try and make sure that gets happen. He's not worrying about, seeing if everybody's, doing their jobs in the nursery and stuff right. He's not overseeing that. His whole job is getting people connected. Like, that might be a good idea for some of y'all watching, because the pastor can't do it all.
Yeah.
I know Sunday mornings, man, I'm very intentional with first-time visitors. Like, I promise you one thing, if there's a pastor watching and you don't talk to a visitor before they leave, like, shame on you. You are missing you're missing your whole thing, I make sure I'm at the back door. There ain't not one visitor that leaves that church without me chasing them down and talking to them. Promise you, it's not going to happen. I want to know who they are. I want to know what they're doing. But here's the thing. Like, sometimes I can't invest as much time in talking and communicating to a visitor sometimes than somebody who intentionally is doing it. Because before the service, I'm very focused on the message and what's going on in my mind, what God's going to do in the service, preaching, all that. So when I am talking to a visitor before the service, there's sometimes that I'm not as connected in getting the details of everything going on in their lives, as far as when they new to the area, some of that stuff, but I try to do my best at it. But if I was running a church and had 300-400 people in there, and you would have 10-20 visitors a Sunday, some might fall through the cracks, because as a pastor, you are focusing on other things. And so having that connections pastor, that might be some of y'all's next steps, is actually having someone who's just completely over that and really focusing on making sure every visitor is acknowledged and connected, and actually following up with these people and meeting with them once a month or something, like trying to have coffee with different things like that. Like, the pastor can only do so much. And I think especially in some movements, or to say some movements, I won't say some movements, we're so scared to death that someone has too much control, they're going to take over the church, that we won't delegate stuff like that to people.
So true.
Where they are building relationships and actually getting ingrained with people in their church, visitors. We're scared to death someone's going to take over the church. But The reality is if your church can be taken over that easy, then you probably didn't. You're probably not connected to most people in your church like you ought to be.
And
now.
it's not your church.
Yeah, it's God's church. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
If you start the sentence with my church, then maybe check yourself a little bit.
Yeah. It's kind of like I love that book, Tale of Three Kings. If nobody's read it, Tale of Three Kings by Gene Edwards. It's so very good. But he tells the story of Saul and King David and how King Saul was scared to lose his kingdom, and his insecurity costed him his kingdom because he was so scared of David. Went around trying to kill David, and you see David when he's king, he never fought for his kingship. Absalom rose up, he left. You know what God did? God killed Absalom, brought David back. Like at the end of the day, if you're so scared someone's going to take your spot and not just trusting God that if it was taken, God's going to judge whatever took place the correct way. At the end of the day, you're not trusting the Lord with what He's doing. Anyways, that's a whole different. I don't even know how we got on that. Let people have relationships in your church. Delegate stuff to people, and discipling people. So I love that I have people in our church that disciple people in our church, and I don't have to have anything to do with it. We've got some great spiritual-minded people, preachers in our church, that I give them authority. They disciple people. There's some people in our church that have a better relationship and discipling people in our church than me, and I'm fine with that.
That's okay.
I'm completely fine with that. They are like under shepherds in the church that are discipling folks better than I am, and that's a wonderful thing. Love it. So
good. But that's all we had as far as questions.
That's all the questions. If anybody wants us to ever do videos going in details on some of these things, maybe we didn't cover in detail, like church simulation, y'all make sure to let us know in the comments. If you don't know what the Digital Track Ministry is, but you're curious in it, we'll drop a demo video you can sign up for in the comments. But if you have any questions for us, don't hesitate to reach out to us. But anyways, thank y'all for watching. I hope y'all have a blessed day. Make sure you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Stay in contact with what we're doing. We're posting trainings for churches all the time. Trainings on the Digital Track Ministry, but also just like interviews with pastors that God's blessing their churches. We interview them and see what they're doing and stuff, and we'll post it on our channel where you can get a lot of benefit, knowledge, and a blessing to your ministry. So anyways, y'all have a blessed day.